He pointed at me and burst out laughing, a glass of champagne balanced between his fingers. "You? A simple waitress trying to talk to my deaf son?" The laughter of his friends echoed through the dining room, sharp as blades slicing the air. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Every head turned toward me, waiting for the usual, for me to look down, apologize, and vanish into the background like sempre. But that night, something inside me refused to stay quiet. Before I tell you what I answered, I need to tell you how I ended up there. My name is Grace. I'm 26. And for the last 2 years I've worked at the most expensive restaurant in the city, the Golden Palm. It's the kind of place where one bottle of wine costs more than my monthly rent, and customers' fake smiles seem to matter more than the staff's dignity. Every night I put on the same starched uniform, twist my hair into a perfect bun, and pretend nothing gets to me. But when I go home, the silence in my tiny apartment wraps around me like a cruel reminder. I am alone. No family, no shoulder to lean on. Only bills stacked on the table and the weak hum of my electric stove heating up instant noodles that somehow became my regular dinner. 3 days before that night, an envelope slid under my door. Eviction notice. 3 months of rent past due. I owed the equivalent of $18,000 in back rent. My bank account, $57. I sat down on the kitchen floor, hugged my knees, and cried until my throat ached and my voice disappeared. But I didn't have the luxury of falling apart. Life doesn't pause for people who are just trying to survive. That Friday, the dining room was packed. Golden lights, forced laughter, the thick smell of expensive steak and imported perfume mixing in the air. I was trying to keep up, balancing trays, fake smiles, and the weight of my own worries, when the manager called the whole staff together. His voice trembled. "Mr. Christopher Hartwell will be dining here tonight." A heavy silence fell over us. Everyone knew the name. The billionaire who owned half the city, including the building where the restaurant was. A man famous for destroying careers with a single comment. My co-workers exchanged glances. Some even let out a sigh of relief when the manager finished. "Grace, he'll be your table tonight." My stomach clenched. Why me? I thought. He avoided my eyes. "Because you're the only one who never talks back." I wanted to refuse. I wanted to disappear. But the voice that came out of my mouth was small and obedient. "Yes, sir." In that moment, without realizing, I accepted the shift that would change the course of my life. The clock read 7:30 when the restaurant doors opened. 2 security guards walked in first, big and expressionless. Then came Christopher Hartwell, tall, wearing a charcoal gray suit, hair perfectly styled, eyes like ice. The entire dining room seemed to bend around his presence. He walked as if the floor itself belonged to his footsteps. He took the table by the windows, surrounded by 3 friends who laughed as if money could turn anything into a joke. As I approached with my notepad, I heard his first line, sharp as a slap. "Champagne 2008. "You know what that is? Or do you need me to spell it out for you?" The laughter returned, louder this time. Heat rose in my cheeks. I swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. I'll be right back with your order." On the outside, I was calm. On the inside, something was starting to boil. A mix of shame, exhaustion, and a quiet anger that didn't yet know a proprio nome. I had no idea his son would still arrive that night, or that their meeting, in front of 50 strangers, would set off a silent revolution. Ethan Hartwell. The guy with the timid gaze, restless hands, and small hearing devices tucked behind his ears. The son his father tried to hide, even when he was sitting right next to him. And that night, in front of a room full of people, one small gesture, a look, a smile, would be the spark that lit everything up. The champagne flutes were chiming in the air when he walked in. He looked to be in his early 20s, wearing a red hoodie that completely clashed with the golden glow of the dining room. He stepped in slowly, like he didn't want to bother anyone, his eyes searching for something or someone who wasn't really welcoming him. I noticed before everyone else the hesitant way he walked, the faint tremor in his hands, the hearing aids almost hidden beneath his hair. It was the billionaire's son, Ethan Hartwell. He stood there for a few seconds by the table. His father kept laughing with his friends, not even lifting his gaze. Ethan only existed when he touched his father's shoulder. Christopher finally reacted, not with affection, but with irritation, coated in shame. "You're late. Sit down, and please don't embarrass me." "No, hi. No, how are you? Just an order, delivered cold, in front of everyone." Ethan lowered his head and shrank into his chair. I wanted to disappear, but the autopilot of service pushed me forward, tray in hand. I put on my professional smile, even with a knot in my throat. "Good evening, gentlemen. Are you ready to order?" His friends chose the most expensive cuts, rare wines, side dishes they barely looked at. While I took notes, I noticed Ethan staring at the menu with a confused expression, like the words were floating away before he could grab them. I took a small step closer. "And for you, sir, have you decided?" He didn't react. His eyes were on his phone now, drifting. I raised my voice a bit. "Sir, would you like to order something from the menu?" Nothing. That's when his father noticed. Christopher laughed, loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. "It's useless, sweetheart. He can't hear you." The laughter started again, first his, then his friends. One of them waved his hand in front of Ethan's face, mocking like you'd tease a child. "Anybody home?" he sneered. Ethan's face turned red. Mine went cold. I didn't know exactly what to do. So I did what my heart told me. I took one step forward and positioned myself right in front of him. I made sure he could see my lips clearly and spoke slowly. "Hi, I'm Grace. What would you like to eat?" For a heartbeat, his eyes lit up. Surprised, grateful, almost disbelieving. He pointed at the menu and murmured with effort, "Grilled salmon, please." Before I could confirm his order, Christopher slammed his glass on the table. "He'll have water, that's all. And make it quick." The dry sound of crystal on wood shattered the fragile moment we had just created. I nodded automatically, trying to swallow the anger rising in my chest. But Ethan called me again with the smallest of gestures. He began to sign, hands moving uncertainly in the air, trying to tell me something. I didn't understand, but I smiled anyway. I stayed. I looked at him, and I let him look at me. That was all it took to irritate his father. Christopher stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. His suit caught the light, expensive fabric shimmering as he towered over us. "Oh, this is too much. Are you really trying to talk to him with your hands now? Playing the mute little heroine?" The laughter stabbed the air again, louder, uglier. The entire room went tense. Waiters froze mid-step. Customers pretended not to stare but couldn't look away. The manager watched from a distance, pale, rooted to the spot. I tried to explain. "Sir, I was only trying to help." "You're a waitress," he cut me off, stepping closer. "Take the plates, bring the food, and keep your mouth shut. My son doesn't need your pity." His eyes were as cold as stone. The laughter died instantly, leaving behind a heavy, suffocating silence. Ethan stared down at his lap, fists clenched, cheeks burning with shame. And right there, I felt it. If I stayed quiet, something inside me would die. But fear still pressed on my chest like an invisible hand. I took a slow breath and stepped back. Christopher smiled, thinking he had put me in my place. He had no idea that would be the last second of control he'd have over that room. Because that night, Ethan's silence and my voice were about to change everything. The dining room was frozen. 60 people trapped between fear and disbelief, watching a man in an expensive suit humiliate his own son. Christopher's breathing was heavy, his face flushed with anger and alcohol. "Use your voice, girl. Talk to my son like a normal person." Normal? The word hit me like a stone. I looked at Ethan, eyes full of tears, head bowed. His shame was a mirror, and in that mirror, I saw myself. How many times had I swallowed insults to avoid being fired? How many nights had I let people step on me because I needed to pay rent? Fear gripped me for one more second. Then something stronger rose from inside. No. The word slipped out, quiet but sharp enough to slice through the silence. Christopher's eyebrows shot up. "What did you just say?" I lifted my head and met his eyes, feeling my heart pounding against my ribs. "I said no, sir." He laughed, but there was a tremor in it now. "Do you have any idea who you're talking to?" "Yes," I said, taking a step forward. "I'm talking to a man who humiliates his own son because he's terrified of seeing in him what money can't buy." The room exhaled with me. His friends glanced at each other, suddenly unsure. The manager in the corner shook his head almost desperately, begging me with his eyes to stop. But I couldn't. Not anymore. "He's your son, sir, and you treat him like he's something to be ashamed of." "Shut up," Christopher hissed. "No. Because if no one speaks for him, I will." My voice grew steadier, louder. Fear was still there, but it no longer controlled me. I pointed gently toward Ethan. "This young man doesn't need to be fixed. He just needs to be heard. In his own way." The silence broke into scattered murmurs. A man in a black suit stood up and muttered, "She's right." A woman nearby shook her head, outraged. Christopher's face drained of color. "You're going to regret this. You're fired." "You can fire me," I replied. "But you can't force me to watch a father destroy his own son." I turned to Ethan and spoke slowly so he could read my lips. "You are not the problem. The problem is the people who refuse to listen." He raised his head. Tears were running down his cheeks, but there was something new in his eyes. A quiet, raw courage. Christopher tried to shout something, but the sound of clapping drowned him out. Someone started to applaud, then another person. In seconds, the entire dining room was on its feet. Christopher spun around, stunned. His friends weren't laughing anymore. Ethan stood up, his voice shaky but firm as it cut through the noise. "Enough, Dad." The billionaire froze. "Ethan, sit down, now." "No." He drew in a breath, his chest rising as if he were finally inhaling air he'd been denied his entire life. "I am not a mistake, Dad. I'm deaf, and I'm happy like this." His voice, fragile and powerful at the same time, filled the restaurant with something no one expected. Respect. Christopher tried to answer, but the words fell apart in his mouth. The crowd had already chosen a side, and it wasn't his. Between applause and tears, I realized something. The boy who had walked in small and invisible had just been born again in front of everyone. And I, who only wanted to survive one more shift, had just taken my own voice back. The applause thundered through the room like a storm. Christopher shouted something, but now his words were nothing but noise. The restaurant rose up in support, voices overlapping, people crying, some filming with their phones, others simply standing to bear witness. Ethan stayed on his feet, his face still wet, but his gaze steady. "I'm done, Dad," he said. "I'm done being treated like a defect." The silence that followed was heavier than the laughter from before. Christopher, completely unmoored, grabbed his champagne glass as if it could anchor him. "You don't understand. I just want you to have a normal life," he stammered. Ethan answered with the calm of someone who had finally stepped into his own strength. "Normal for you means pretending I don't exist." The words hung in the air like a verdict. A woman at the next table shouted, "You should be ashamed." A man added, "That boy is worth more than all your money." The billionaire lost control. "You people don't know anything. I spent millions trying to help this boy. Doctors, specialists, schools." I took a deep breath and looked straight at him. "You spent all that to cure your ego, not your son." The sentence slipped out before I could stop it. The impact was immediate. Christopher's eyes widened. His hand went limp. The glass fell and shattered on the floor, pieces of crystal scattering like the last illusions of control he had left. No one moved. Ethan looked at me, a silent, grateful thank you in his eyes, then turned back to his father. "Enough," he said again. He turned and started walking toward the door. His father tried to call him back, but his voice broke halfway. Then the applause returned, louder, deeper, more honest. People stood up, some crying openly, others holding up their phones to record that moment. The whole dining room applauded the son who finally had the courage to say, "Enough." The next morning, the entire world knew what had happened. A video recorded by a young deaf woman seated at a corner table had gone viral overnight. Waitress confronts billionaire for humiliating his deaf son. 15 million views in a single day. In 2 days, headlines everywhere. Christopher Hartwell's empire began to crack like a sheet of glass already full of fractures. Stocks plummeted. Investors pulled away. Protests erupted outside his buildings. Posters in the streets. Hashtags calling for boycotts. The man who thought he was untouchable could no longer step outside without hearing his own words thrown back at him. And me? I woke up to my phone vibrating nonstop. Thousands of messages. People I had never met calling me brave. Restaurant owners offering me a job. And then a notification that made me cry. Fundraiser created by the deaf community. For Grace, who spoke when the world stayed silent. Within hours, the campaign had raised more than $30,000. It felt like the universe was quietly returning every tear I had swallowed alone in that tiny apartment. But what moved me the most was the last message of the day. An unknown number. "Hi, it's Ethan. Can I meet you to say thank you?" I stared at the message for a long second. Then I typed back, "You can. Of course you can." A week later, we met at a small coffee shop far from the cameras and the noise. He looked different, lighter. "I moved out," he told me, smiling. "I left my father's house. I'm living on my own now, and I started learning ASL." I smiled back, feeling my eyes burn with tears. "So did I. I want to be able to really talk to you." He laughed, a laugh with no shame, no fear. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. 2 months have passed since that night. The city went back to its usual rush, like it always does. But something inside me has changed forever. I still carry trays, yes. But now I work in a new restaurant, full of light, where my co-workers call me by my name and treat me with respect. My salary is 3 times higher. The weight on my shoulders feels 3 times lighter. Sometimes, when the dining room is quiet after closing time, I replay everything in my mind. The sharp crack of the glass hitting the floor, Ethan's sad eyes that first night, and the exact moment when I finally said no. That small word changed 2 lives. Ethan now gives talks about inclusion, participates in social projects, and helps create programs for young deaf people. He's learning ASL with a passion that's contagious. We meet every week at the same little coffee shop, the one where we first talked. He teaches me a new sign. I try to repeat it. We laugh when I get it wrong, celebrate when I get it right. Slowly, I've learned that conversation isn't just about speaking. It's about listening with your whole heart. One afternoon, he walked in holding something in his hand. A simple blue fabric bracelet with a small infinity symbol in the middle. He handed it to me with a smile. "It's the sign for a new beginning," he explained. "The way we say it, always moving, always continuous." I looked at that bracelet and felt tears gather again. It wasn't just a present. It was a reminder that what I did that night, out of instinct, out of compassion, had become a seed. While that seed grew quietly, the name Christopher Hartwell slowly disappeared from the headlines. He resigned, lost his power, his partners, his applause. People say he lives hidden away now, trying to figure out when everything began to fall apart. Maybe one day he'll understand it wasn't the video or the internet or the rage of the public. It was his own son's silence, the silence he never wanted to hear. Today, when someone asks if I regret standing up to such a powerful man, I always say yes. I regret not doing it sooner. Because staying quiet would have cost me something far more expensive than my job. It would have cost me my soul. The truth is simple and beautiful. Sometimes the smallest gesture of courage, a look, a word, a no, is what restores dignity to someone who has been denied the right to be heard. And when someone chooses respect, the world slowly remembers how to speak the most universal language of all, the language of our shared humanity. This story reminds us that true energy comes from within, the kind that renews us every day. If this story touched your heart, check the pinned comment to discover products that inspire renewal and balance. Leave a like and subscribe to join us in our next story.